This is a 2009 Honda CRV, and I'm going to be replacing the front struts. And I got a strut kit. It's a kit that's already pre-made, and you can see there's some bolts in there, some nuts, whatnot around the top. And to get to that, there is a cover that just pops out from this, and there's one on the driver's side, and it just pops out, and you kind of got to work it out from underneath this wiper arm. That's as far as I've got. Next thing would be I'm gonna jack it up in the air and take the tire off. The passenger side is really bad. It doesn't even have the boot on it anymore, and you can actually push the shock and it squeaks really bad. It is wore out. And the driver's side wasn't as bad, but since that passenger side wore out, the boot on this one has ripped, and it is not as loose up on the shock part as the other side, but it's gonna be pretty soon replaced. As far as I got today. Alright, just to show you, I have the part number and already have the box marked. I'm going to be doing it one side at a time. So I know this is the right side when I go to take the right side off. And just to show you what the whole strut assembly looks like, you don't have to just replace the shock. You can just go on and buy the whole thing. And it's pretty much unbolt some bolts and bolt it back up. Everything's already there. You can see this boot. It's not busted, and you can't see anything in it, and hopefully it gets rid of the squeaks. And I'm also going to have it aligned after I install these. So and the instructions, it also says to mark on your old strut the orientation on this cap. So I'm just going to take like some magic marker or something and mark a bolt and where it was at, and see there must be, and see how these line up. I mean, it'd be pretty much turn it and find and compare it to the other strut. That's what the instructions say. So we'll see how that goes when we get there. Alright, just trying to get all the sockets I'm going to need to take the strut off tomorrow. The top strut nut is going to be a 14 millimeter, and the sockets to take off the sway bar link, that's going to be a 17 millimeter. The Brakeline is going to be a 12 millimeter. The sensor just pops out, and the top nut on the right side is going to be a 19 millimeter, and the nut for the opposite side is going to be a 22 millimeter. Alright, got it on the jack stand. I got it lifted up and whatnot, whatever. Be careful. Alright, this strut, or sway bar link, I thought was going to be the easiest thing to get off, but it doesn't have a nut in the back. It is a 6 millimeter that goes into an Allen key hole, and then there's 17 millimeter wrench, box end on this side, take off this sensor from here, and you can wedge that wrench in there and get that sucker off that. I had to spray a few times with some PB blaster, but it finally worked its way out. So I'm going to take the brake line off, take these bolts loose, take those bolts loose up here, and get this whole strut off. That's as far as I got. And that took me forever to do because of this. It's right here, goes right in there and holds the nut from turning. And it turns the opposite way of what you think it would for some odd reason. But that's how it is. Just want to show you that the kit comes with a new set nuts for the studs on top of the coil, strut, spring assembly, whatever you want to call it. And that these are 15 millimeter, not 14 like the old ones. No matter how many tools you have, you can never have enough because there's always one size they throw in, even when you get all the tools you need. This just goes to prove that. And I just thought I'd add that in there since I listed all the other tools I used. So have fun. Just show you removing the strut mount bolts. I'm just using a big breaker bar and a ratchet. And it comes off very easily with this brake bar. Alright, if you look at the old one versus the new one, you can see how bad, like, it's just starting to wear out. And it's not even the side that was bad. If you leave the bottom bolt in on the strut and you take the top bolt out, the bottom bolt will hold the strut in place while you take off the top bolts. And I did have to remove the windshield wiper arm, but it's just a cap over a 17 millimeter nut, and there's nothing special to do, just flip it off to get to that stud with the nut on it. Oh yeah. And all you gotta do is like take this bolt right here, transfer it onto here, and everything else is old hardware. Like these two will be old hardware, but they give you new hardware for the top of the strut. Okay, if you look on the old one, you got one little stud, a big stud, a little stud, a big stud, a little stud. And it's the same way on this. And you know that this is the left side, so the bracket for the brake line is going to be on the left side. And this one is going to be on the left side also, but for this model, this whole plate actually turns. So you have to turn it to match the other side. You have to turn it to match this side. And you just got to keep turning it to where it's little stud, big stud, little stud, big stud, little stud. And it matches with the way it lines up to this as it originally did. Alright, if I had to do it again, I would support this control arm and rotor where it wouldn't fall down, because this, after lining it up, you get it lined up and you can turn it while it's in the hole to get it lined up the rest of the way. But this is heavy, really heavy to try to get in at one time by yourself. Thinking I got another jack stand somewhere. I'm going to do that on the other side. But what I did was put one bolt up here to hold it in, one nut on it back there. And I put the lower nut and bolt on the bottom one and got it all lined up, and that one went in easy. And I just want to show you this stabilizer bar, sway bar. It is completely busted. And I ordered some, but they hadn't come in today. Maybe next week. But for now, I'm just going to put it back. And in case you're wondering how I got these nuts onto these studs, I just use a magnet. I cheat. I just place it on top of it and just kind of like that, just kind of scoop it off. I just tighten it down with a socket, and that's the easy way to do it. That way you gotta try to get your hands back in there. All it's left to do is torque the bolts back down everywhere. You can see I got it all back on. I got the Brakeline bracket back on. I got this sway bar link on there. I got the speed sensor clip back in and push back on. And I just gotta tighten these up, torque them down, and do the other side. And that's all there is to it. That's the left side done. All I gotta do is the right side. So if you're planning on doing this, this is what you're in for.